I'm really pleased that everyone is talking to each other. That, in fact, is one of the main reasons why we formed this organization. But now I hope you'll be a little bit quiet to hear some interesting talks this morning. I'm Michael Brown from Dallas, and my job this morning is to welcome all of you to the 8th annual TAMEST meeting. Some of you may wonder why we have this name, TAMEST, and I'll tell you how that came about. I mean, why isn't it just called the Texas Academy of Sciences? Well, the reason goes back to the founding of this organization. Back in August of 2003, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, in an act that I believe to be unprecedented in the annals of the United States Senate, called together a group of the scientific leaders of Texas to a meeting that she hosted in the offices of Peter O'Donnell in Dallas. And the purpose of and so the attendees included the presidents of the research-intense universities, and she threw in a couple of odd Nobel laureates just for sex appeal. So Rick Smalley and I were invited. And she had two reasons for hosting this meeting. First, she said, Texas is not getting its fair share of federal grants. And most of these grants go to large consortiums of different universities, and she thought that Texas scientists ought to be working together between universities to produce these multidisciplinary grants, and she wanted to explore how that could be accomplished. And her second concern was that Texas didn't have its fair share of members in the National Academies of Science. And so we sat around this room and trying to think, and one of the ideas was, well, let's have a meeting. Let's draw together the leading scientists of Texas and see if, have panels and try to foster integration, try to also help them get their colleagues elected into the National Academy. And so, unfortunately, at that time, we said, well, not unfortunately, it turns out to be fortunate, but we said, well, why have one meeting? If we're going to have a meeting, why don't we make it an annual meeting so people get together? And then the idea was, well, if we're going to have an annual meeting, what's the real forum? Well, why don't we start an academy? Okay, so we'll start the Texas Academy. And then the question was, how do people get elected to this academy? And I remember distinctly that Rick Smalley said, I hate academies. All they do are just people that hand around patting each other on the back and giving each other prizes, and that I don't want to be part of such an organization. It has to have a function. So, and then we were very much concerned about who would be elected to membership in this academy, and we didn't want Texas politics to dominate, which some of you may know can happen. So, the really bright idea came out, well, let's let the national academies make the selection for us. So the decision was made that the only members of the Texas Academy would be people who have already been elected to one of the three organizations of the national academies. And so that's how this came about, and I'll have to tell you that the most impressive thing, not only did Senator Hutchison call the meeting, but she put her staff at our disposal to actually get this organization off the ground. And she has a very effective and efficient group, mostly young ladies, who did a fantastic job getting this nuts and bolts. We had to have a constitution, and we had to file with the state. And that's when the first problem came up, because we filed with the state to own the name Texas Academy of Science. And then we found out that there already was a Texas Academy of Science. Does anybody know, has anybody here ever heard of the Texas Academy of Science? Well, Bill Brinkley, maybe I see two hands here. The fact is, there is such a thing. It was formed, I think, in the 19th century, and as far as I can tell, it's mostly, most of the members are forest rangers. And so I called the president of this organization, and I said, you know, Senator Hutchinson is behind this. We want to have a new academy that would be much broader than just forestry, and so, you know, can you please agree that we can have the name? And he said, absolutely not. And so we even got the senator to send him a letter formally requesting this, and the gentleman refused. So we couldn't use the Texas Academy, so that's why we came up with the acronym, the Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Science of Texas, TAMEST. And then I found out something incredible about why it's nice to be a senator. The senator picked up the telephone and called the CEOs of about 4 companies and a couple of wealthy individuals in Dallas, and within a few days we had about $5 million in our bank account. So it's good to be a senator. And what's even more impressive about Senator Hutchinson is that she has stayed involved with this organization for the full 8 years of its existence. She'll be here tomorrow to help us celebrate. She is passionate about Texas science and Texas scientists, and we owe her a tremendous debt of gratitude, not only for this organization, but for helping to raise not only the funding, but the profile of science in Texas. So let me just say that this 8th meeting has the largest number of registrants of all time. We have 340 registered guests, members and guests at this meeting, and tonight at the banquet there will be over 400 people. And this is a record for us. So we're not only in existence, but we're growing, and I'm very proud of you in the audience, the scientists of Texas, for making this all happen. And with that, I will turn the program over to our president, wherever he is, Dr. Cigaroa, who was my medical student.
Well, I was Dr. Brown's medical student. Before I started my residency, he said, "Don't disappoint me." Every time I see him, I ask him, "Have I disappointed you yet?" He goes, "No, but there's still time." Well, with this, it certainly is a privilege for me to be able to introduce our first keynote speaker this morning, which is Mr. Rex Tillerson. Mr. Tillerson is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Exxon Mobil Corporation, the world's largest publicly traded international oil and gas company. He has a huge job. A native of Wichita Falls, Texas, Mr. Tillerson earned a baccalaureate of science and civil engineering here at the University of Texas at Austin before joining Exxon Company in 1975 as a production engineer. In 1989, he became the general manager of the company's Central Productive Division, responsible for oil and gas production operations throughout a large portion of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kansas. During the 1990s, Mr. Tillerson rose through the ranks of the organization and was assigned management responsibilities for Exxon's holdings in Russia and the Caspian Sea, among other roles. In December of 1999, he became Executive Vice President for Exxon Mobil Development Company. Mr. Tillerson was named Senior Vice President of Exxon Mobil Corporation in August of 2001 and was elected President of the corporation and member of the Board of Directors in March of 2004. And he assumed his current position on January the 1st of 2006. As a technology-driven company, ExxonMobil that employs more than 16,000 scientists and engineers, under Rex Tillerson's leadership, has made a number of investments in STEM educational initiatives that benefit students and, yes, our teachers. Many of these programs align with the recommendations in the report Rising Above the Gathering Storm, a landmark 2005 publication from the National Academies. The company strongly advocates that excellence in U.S. math and science education has a direct correlation to the United States' ability to successfully compete, to prosper, and to remain secure in the global community of the 21st century. As such, and because of the passion of Mr. Tillerson, ExxonMobil recently announced that it expects to spend more than $120 million on U.S. math and science education through 2012. Some of the educational programs supported by ExxonMobil include the following. The National Math and Science Initiative. This was founded in 2007 with a $125 million commitment by ExxonMobil. The National Math and Science Initiative is taking to a national scale 2 programs that were developed in the state of Texas. UTeach, a highly successful program developed at the UT College of Natural Sciences, and if Mary Ann Rankin is here, I'd like to give you special accolades for that. That produces qualified teachers with math and science degrees. And as well, the Advanced Placement Training and Incentive Program, which increases student participation in AP Math, Science, and English exams. A second program is the Mickelson ExxonMobil Teachers Academy, which is a joint initiative between ExxonMobil and professional golfer Phil Mickelson that trains 3rd through 5th grade teachers on innovative teaching methods and hands-on applications of both math and science. A third program is ExxonMobil's Bernard Harris Summer Science Camps. ExxonMobil partners with a foundation established by former astronaut Dr. Bernard Harris to offer 25 2-week summer camps at universities across our great nation. A fourth program, Reasoning Mind, an innovative web-based math education program using sophisticated artificial intelligence and interactive graphics to actively engage students in math. And finally, but it's certainly not the last, is Change the Equation. Mr. Tillerson serves on the board of Change the Equation, an initiative to improve STEM education launched in 2010 by business leaders in response to President Obama's Educate to Innovate campaign. As you can see, Mr. Tillerson is absolutely committed to the next generation of our nation through embarking and enhancing our STEM initiatives. In addition to his numerous professional and executive committee memberships, Mr. Tillerson is the national president of the Boy Scouts of America, the vice chairman of the Ford's Theater Society, and a former director of the United Negro College Fund. He is also a member of the Chancellor's Council and the Engineering Advisory Board for the University of Texas at Austin and the Society of Petroleum Engineers. We at TAMEST would like to express our deepest gratitude to ExxonMobil as the premier sponsor of this year's annual conference, and we also want to recognize the company for its profound support of every annual conference since our inaugural event in 2004. This morning's keynote will address a topic of great historical significance for Texas and a topic that is absolutely vital to our economic growth and our societal advancement on a global scale, applying science and innovation to find better, safer, and cleaner ways to deliver the energy that this world needs. Let us please welcome Mr. Rex Tillerson.
Well, good morning, all, and thank you, Dr. Cigaroa, for that most kind introduction. It is indeed my pleasure to be with you this morning, as it is always a pleasure to be back in Austin, Texas. And being an engineer myself, it's a particular pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to this distinguished group this morning. Now, this morning I am going to talk about the vital role energy will play in helping our economy recover, grow, and create new jobs, and how technology will be a critical enabler in meeting the world's growing energy needs. In my remarks, many of the principles and challenges attendant to energy can be just as easily found in other fields of medicine, engineering, and science. We know from centuries of history that reliable and affordable energy is essential to human progress in Texas, throughout the United States, and indeed around the world. To sustain progress, we must continue to safely expand the world's energy supplies, improve the ways in which we consume energy sources, and address the attendant environmental challenges. As it has been throughout the history of the energy industry, technological advances will underpin solutions to all of these challenges. As always, these advances will be shaped by public policy. Does it encourage or discourage certain technological investments and innovations? And to what extent does public policy recognize the economic importance of safe, secure, and environmentally responsible energy production and allow for appropriate risk management approaches? It is fitting that we are discussing these challenges here in Texas. When it comes to energy innovation and building sound and stable energy policies, Texas is an example for the nation and indeed the world. Our state is a major supplier of energy for good reasons. We are blessed with abundant oil and natural gas reserves. We have climatic and meteorological conditions favorable for wind and solar power. We have a highly trained energy workforce and some of the sector's leading researchers, scientists, and engineers. We have a world-class, innovative system of higher education that cultivates this talent. And equally, if not most important, Texas has a tradition of sound and stable energy policy making that encourages business to invest, develop, and deploy the technologies that can harness the state's energy resources. One of the most important reasons for Texas's leadership in energy technology is the fact that our state's private and public sectors generally recognize certain fundamental truths about energy markets. First and foremost, we recognize the relationship between energy and economic growth. As economies grow and as billions around the world strive to attain an improved standard of living for themselves and their children, the demand for energy rises. And when energy is abundant and affordable, businesses have the confidence to invest, produce, innovate, expand, and create jobs in all sorts of new ventures. A second important factor to energy technology development in Texas is the recognition that we should encourage the development of all economically competitive energy sources. Too often, energy policy debates frame the issue in zero-sum terms, pitting one energy source against another. But the growing energy needs here in the United States and around the world make it clear we will need to develop all sources to stay globally competitive. We will need oil, natural gas, and coal. We will need nuclear power. And we will need alternative energy sources such as wind, solar, and next-generation biofuels. It is not either or, it is all of the above. In looking at this challenge, it is important to note that hydrocarbon resources, including oil, coal, and natural gas, will continue to play an important role. Currently, these sources meet about 80% of global energy demand. Our projections, along with those of most government and independent analysts, indicate that hydrocarbons will continue to meet the vast majority of the world's growing energy needs well into the middle part of this century, thanks to their availability, their reliability, their accessibility, and their versatility. Alternative energy sources are expected to achieve relatively high annual growth rates, but because they begin from a comparatively small base, they will continue to comprise a small share of the world's energy portfolio for many years to come. This evolution is consistent with the history of energy use. When the world economies began transitioning from wood to coal in the middle part of the 19th century, It took 50 years before coal met half of the world's energy demand. Likewise, when world economies began shifting from coal to oil and natural gas in the latter part of the 19th century, it took 3/4 of a century for oil and natural gas to displace 50% of the world's coal demand. The point here is not that growth in alternative energy sources is not important, but rather that the world's energy challenges span a very long time frame. In order to meet these future energy needs, we must encourage technological advancements in all potential sources of energy and in all potential ways to improve our consumption of traditional energy sources. As this happens, we increase energy diversity, energy security, and ultimately economic growth. Promoting economic growth is a chief concern of many Americans today and a top policy priority for our elected officials. As we consider ways of creating jobs, increasing efficiency, and generating revenues, it is worth recalling the enormous contributions the energy industry makes to the economy. According to a PricewaterhouseCoopers study, the oil and gas industry added more than $1 trillion to the U.S. economy in 2007, about 7.5% of the nation's gross domestic product. At the same time, we provide significant revenues to government. For instance, Exxon Mobil alone had total income and other tax expenses of more than $60 billion over the last 5 years. In fact, our U.S. taxes exceed our U.S. earnings by $19 billion during that time frame. And at a time of relatively high unemployment nationwide, it is worth recalling that the oil and natural gas industry directly and indirectly supports more than 9 million full and part-time U.S. jobs. This fact is often overlooked in policy debates regarding so-called green jobs. The fact is, just as we need all competitive energy sources, we also need all competitive energy jobs. It is not either or, it is all of the above. Just as technological progress has promoted economic growth, so it has also played a crucial role in the energy industry, improving safety, reducing environmental impacts of energy production, and enabling access to new sources of energy supply. With technological advances and breakthroughs come exposures to new risk that must be recognized, accommodated, and actively managed. This is the role the technological and researcher, whether you're in the energy, medicine, or telecommunications, must play. The Deepwater Horizon accident and spill in the Gulf of Mexico last year was a painful reminder of the human and environmental damage that can result from a failure to uphold these standards. At Exxon Mobil, we learned a similar lesson after the Valdez incident 20 years ago. It was a low point for our company, but also a turning point. In the aftermath, we took the initiative to transform our risk management processes, our procedures, and our people from within, cultivating core values of safety, integrity, and environmental responsibility. We must never grow complacent, and indeed our own efforts will forever remain a work in progress. But I am proud of the progress ExxonMobil has achieved in safety and environmental performance in the oil and natural gas industry, here in Texas and around the world. And we share our approaches freely with any and all industry participants. We believe that incidents like the Deepwater Horizon explosion, with the tragic loss of life and subsequent spill, should not happen if industry standards, best practices, and appropriate risk management processes are followed. And indeed, much of the industry's efforts have always been focused on prevention, as is evident in the 40-year record in the Gulf of Mexico prior to the BP incident. However, the spill did reveal that our nation and the energy industry could have been better prepared for the possibility, however remote, of a deepwater well blowout. Our systems and technology advancements must always recognize the human element and its fallibility. After this tragedy, many of the leaders in our industry saw the need to rebuild public trust by seeking new solutions. One of our most important efforts has been a public commitment to develop an innovative well containment system. Exxon Mobil has joined 3 other major oil and gas companies, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and Shell, to develop a system that can rapidly respond to an incident in the deepwater Gulf of Mexico. This new innovative system, to be mobilized within 24 hours of an incident, will be designed to capture up to 100,000 barrels of oil a day from a well blowout in water as deep as 10,000 feet. The 4 member companies have committed to a total investment of $1 billion on this important project. The marine well containment system is only part of a broad set of industry initiatives to improve well control, emergency response, and spill prevention. It is our objective that we are building a response capability that will never be called upon. But if we do need it, it will be there. Safety is important for its own sake. We have no greater responsibility to ensure that no one, employees, contractors, or the public, are injured as a result of our activities. But beyond that moral imperative, safety and operational integrity are squarely in our nation's economic interest. The resources from the Gulf of Mexico account for about 30% of U.S. oil and natural gas production and support more than 170,000 jobs. This is a challenge that industry and government can meet, with each playing their appropriate roles. And like many challenges we face in this industry, technological advancement will enable the solutions. Few Americans realize that the energy industry is one of the most technologically advanced sectors of the economy. Energy technologies have not only helped expand supplies and increase safety, but they have also made America more competitive. When the public and our policymakers think about technological innovation, they typically think about Silicon Valley or MIT or some other research institute on the West Coast. But because of our role in creating new energy technologies, it is worth noting that Texas is one of the most important locations in the nation for developing new energy innovations, innovations that have been exported to the rest of the nation and the world. To illustrate this point, I'd like to touch on just a few examples of energy technologies Exxon Mobil helped develop here in Texas. We're only one company in an innovative sector, and there are many more examples of technologies developed by other companies based in the state as well. The few I highlight will by no means be the only ones, they're just the ones I'm most familiar with. Start with, over the past century, scientists and engineers with Exxon Mobil invented butyl rubber, a critical commodity to the Allied war effort in World War II, which today has found, through continuing innovation, countless expanded uses and application from industrial to medical. We developed the fluid catalytic cracking process for upgrading heavy crude components into large volumes of transportation fuels. We developed the first digital reservoir simulators, and we pioneered three-dimensional seismic technologies to more accurately locate energy sources in new and challenging locations. All of these technologies would be found in our industry the world over today. More recently, the integration of directional and extended reach drilling with hydraulic fracturing have opened up new supplies of natural gas, once thought to be unrecoverable. By combining these time-tested techniques in innovative new ways, we have unlocked a 100-year supply of cleaner burning natural gas in the United States. These technologies, perfected in the Barnett Shale gas fields of North Texas, are currently at work across the nation in many fields in other states, but also here in Texas in the Freestone, Haynesville, and Eagle Ford shales. Similarly, enhanced oil recovery technologies have enabled us to produce energy once believed to be too expensive to recover, allowing us to revitalize mature fields thought to be reaching their economic limit. The energy industry here in Texas is also making it easier for consumers worldwide to save energy. For example, our researchers in Houston are leading a global team which has developed a host of new innovations for the transportation sector. Thanks to advanced plastics, we are helping make cars strong but lighter weight. We have also been instrumental in developing battery separator film technology for lithium-ion batteries. This could enable more widespread use of hybrid and electric vehicles. And we are pioneering technologies that make tires last longer and stay inflated better, which helps with fuel economy and handling. Our industry is also playing an important role in supporting the development of commercially viable renewable energy sources. Our advanced synthetic lubricants, developed and manufactured by Exxon Mobil, help wind turbines in Texas operate safely and reliably. And finally, a venture which we recently announced is our collaboration with Synthetics Genomics Incorporated on research into the potential of algae as a biofuel. Researchers are hoping to develop strains of algae that could ultimately produce refinery feedstock for the production of transportation fuels. If research and development milestones are successfully met, we expect to spend more than $600 million on the algae biofuels program over the next decade. While we have much research and development yet to do, the theory is that certain types of algae grown with water, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and nutrients could produce bio-oils on a sufficient scale to be processed in our refineries to supplement supplies of conventional gasoline, diesel, aviation fuels, and marine fuels. Again, these are just a few examples, but Texas-based technological advances like these, and the many others across our industry, have had a tremendous impact on energy supplies the world over, have had an impact on the ways in which consumers use energy and consumer choices around the world. They have also spurred investment and economic growth. That is especially true here in Texas. For example, in 2009, Exxon Mobil made capital investments of over $1.5 billion in the state. That number increased to over $2 billion in 2010, much of which was associated with the development and deployment of new technologies here in Texas. To achieve technological advances such as these, the energy sector must engage in long-term planning and sustain investments over extended periods of time. Therefore, to enable such long-term investments, stable policy frameworks are essential. In Texas, policymakers have traditionally refrained from picking winners and losers, and as a result, we have seen the state take a lead on nearly every energy frontier. By upholding sound legal, tax, and regulatory frameworks, Texas has enabled the private sector to invest for the long term with confidence. As Texas has shown, government policies that maintain a level playing field and treat industries equally are the most conducive to technological innovation, job creation, and economic growth. Policies that pick winners and losers through mandates, subsidies, or penalties can have the perverse effect of actually stifling innovation. By supporting options that are unable to stand on their own, such policies may be delaying the next phase of innovation or misdirecting the effort entirely. While there can be an appropriate role for government incentives or funding, policymakers must avoid subsidizing certain sectors, companies, or jobs, especially if those policies hinder the ability to invest in new technologies. In addition to upholding stable energy and regulatory policies, an area in which state and national policymakers and the private sector can make a tremendous contribution to continued technological process is in education. As technology and innovation are the bedrock of American competitiveness, economic progress, and job creation, people are the bedrock of technology and innovation. In the energy industry, as with all American industry, the ultimate source of innovation is people. The technological breakthroughs of tomorrow begin in the minds of scientists, engineers, and researchers today. There is a clear nexus between education, innovation, and economic progress. Given this vital connection, it is especially troubling to see our nation's leadership in science, technology, engineering, and math education has eroded in recent years relative to other industrialized nations. 3 decades ago, the United States ranked third among developed nations for college students earning science and engineering degrees. Now, about 20 other countries rank ahead of us in these vital subjects. At Exxon Mobil, this is a point of great concern to us. And as you heard in the introduction, we have put significant energy and financial resources into supporting education programs, particularly in math and science. It is an investment that directly impacts our competitiveness and our ability to remain a technological leader. As part of this effort, we partner with other companies, state governments, and universities, focusing on programs that support both teachers and students. I'm pleased to say that one of the programs which you heard about in the introduction, NIMSY, has been identified as being particularly effective, is the You Teach program, which Dr. Cigarroa alluded to. It began here in Austin at the University of Texas. You Teach has become a model for increasing the supply of qualified math and science teachers through rigorous undergraduate education programs at colleges and universities across the country. Thanks in part to NIMSY's support, this program is now being utilized in 22 universities across the nation and helping build the foundation for future technological and economic progress. The National Math and Science Initiative is an example of the kind of productive public-private partnership that can help lift education results in math, science, and other critical subjects. This in turn drives technological progress across our economy, including the energy sector, and supports long-term economic progress that can help drive growth, increase revenues, and create jobs. Our nation is faced with great challenges: an economic and jobs challenge, with a fiscal house that is in disarray, an education system that is in need of reform, and an erosion of our technology and innovation global leadership position. I would submit that addressing our needs in education and technology as our highest priorities, if we address those, it will take us a long way down the road to ensuring America's place in the global community is secure, and will underpin an economy that will allow us to get our fiscal house in order. These should be our highest priorities. And as we bring along the next generation of mathematicians, scientists, engineers, and medical researchers, we must instill in them a keen sense of their obligation to scientific integrity and ethics. You and they alone stand between the public policymakers, the public themselves, and scientific fact and theory, scientific theory and fiction. Failure to have the courage and conviction to provide clarity around these differences can misinform and mislead policymakers and set back many solutions to our most daunting challenges. The oil and gas industry has long made an important contribution to our state's proud history of innovation. As a Texas-based energy company, Exxon Mobil's proud to have played a role. And together with others across our industry, and with the support of state government and our leading science and engineering institutions, we look forward to continuing to be an important part of the technological progress in the future. I thank you for all that you do for science and technology, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Rex, I want to just, again, just thank you so much for an incredible keynote presentation, for your incredible stewardship of one of our nation's greatest corporations, Exxon Mobil, and for your personal leadership, commitment, and passion of advancing STEM fields and preparing our nation's great teachers to make sure that innovation remains foremost in the future of our nation, which is critical to the future generation of students, critical for our economic vibrancy, our nation's health and security. Rex, we are forever grateful. Thank you.